Have you ever been so desperate that you reached out to the only family you had, only to be met with cold, deafening silence? Have you ever poured your heart into being seen, only to feel like you were invisible, no matter how hard you tried? I used to believe family was a sanctuary, a place to return to when the world turned harsh. That belief crumbled the day I nearly bled to death while my parents were clinking glasses, toasting their golden child. Hey there, I'm Noah Bennett, 30 years old, a carpenter crafting hand-carved woodwork in the quiet forests of Bitterroot, Montana. 2 years ago, a tragedy struck that tore open the truth about my place in my family. That day, like any other, I was working in my small woodshop, a haven nestled deep in the woods, about 7 miles from my parents' house, close enough to call for help in a pinch, but far enough that I was on my own if trouble came. In one fleeting moment, everything I thought I knew about family shattered, and I learned a truth that cut deeper than any blade. Let me share my story with you. My woodshop was my refuge, a place where the steady hum of the saw blended with the soft rustle of my old dog, Tucker, sprawled in the sunlight on the porch, his graying muzzle catching the breeze. I've always loved this work, the way a rough, unshaped piece of wood could transform into something whole, something beautiful, under the careful guidance of my hands. It wasn't just a job. It was my passion, my heartbeat, my life. But that day, the saw slipped. Blood gushed like a broken dam, staining the wooden floor a deep, angry crimson. I staggered back, a scream ripping from my throat, my left hand going numb as blood seeped through my fingers, warm and relentless. I was alone, just me and Tucker, his soft whimpers the only sound in the sudden stillness. Panic surged, but instinct took over. I tore off my flannel shirt, my teeth ripping a strip of fabric as I wrapped it tightly around the wound. The cloth soaked red instantly, pain shooting up my arm like fire, but I had no choice. I had to stop the bleeding, had to stay conscious. My shop, once a place of peace and creation, felt like a cage, trapping me with danger. No one was there but Tucker, his worried eyes fixed on me as I fought to hold on. My hands trembled, slick with blood, as I fumbled in my pocket for my phone. My fingers slipped, smearing the screen, but I managed to dial my parents' number. The phone rang, each unanswered tone stretching my hope thinner, like a thread about to snap. I bit my lip, the metallic taste of blood mixing with the pain, trying to stifle a cry. "Mom, please, come now," I gasped when she finally answered, my voice raw and desperate. "I had an accident. The saw cut deep into my left hand. There's so much blood." Her response was light, almost flippant, carrying no trace of urgency or care. "Don't worry, Noah. Just wait a bit." Then came the hollow click of the call ending, sharp and final. I closed my eyes, my breath ragged, telling myself they'd come, that they'd help stop the bleeding or rush me to a hospital. But deep down, in the quiet part of my mind I'd always tried to ignore, a darker fear screamed. What if they never came? I slumped against the wall, the searing pain in my arm pulsing with every heartbeat. 15 minutes passed. My shop was only 7 miles from their house, a 10-minute drive on a good day. My vision blurred, my head spinning from blood loss, the world tilting dangerously. With trembling fingers, I redialed, but the call went unanswered, the silence louder than any words. Then, my phone rang, my brother's name, Lucas, flashing on the screen. A flicker of hope surged. Maybe he'd heard, maybe he'd help. But when I answered, his slurred, drunken voice spilled through, carefree and oblivious. "Hey, Will, this contract, man, it's huge!" I frowned, my breath shaky, the pain making it hard to focus. "Lucas?" A lazy chuckle came through. "Oh, Noah, my bad. Meant to call Will. Guess I dialed the wrong number. My heart sank, a cold weight settling in my chest. Wrong number. What are you doing? He laughed, his voice bright with reckless joy, the kind that comes from too much liquor and too little care. Man, this party's wild. Everyone's celebrating me. Mom and Dad said they've never been prouder. Uncle Henry even broke out the fancy champagne. Through the phone, I heard Mom's voice, sharp with excitement. Lucas, raise your glass. I want a picture with Uncle Henry. Then, Dad's booming laugh, full of pride. Our boy's made it, a real star. I sat there, my body ice cold, the warmth of my blood pooling around me, staining the floor. They hadn't come because they were too busy celebrating Lucas signing a contract, a moment worthy of toasts, cheers, and laughter. I was fading, teetering on the edge of consciousness, my life slipping away, but to them, it didn't matter. Lucas's triumph was the main event, 7 miles away, while my call for help was just a nuisance they could brush aside. My life didn't matter. Minutes later, my vision dimmed, my breathing heavy, my heartbeat slowing, each thud a reminder of how close I was to slipping away. The pain wasn't just from the wound, it was the crushing truth hitting me like a sledgehammer. I was nothing to them, a shadow in their world, eclipsed by their golden child. Memories flooded in, tearing down the walls I'd built to protect myself from the truth. Lucas, 3 years younger, was the family's pride. Charismatic, charming, always the center of attention. I worked in quiet solitude, shaping wood with calloused hands, while Lucas basked in the spotlight, effortlessly drawing love and admiration. In high school, Lucas was the football star, the kid teachers praised and friends flocked to. When he won his first trophy, my parents mounted it in the living room's heart, a shining beacon for every guest to admire. Dad would stand beneath it, his face glowing with pride, slapping Lucas's shoulder. That's my boy, the best on the team. I once held that trophy, my fingers tracing its polished surface, heavy and foreign in my hands. For a fleeting moment, I wished, just once, that Dad would rest his hand on my shoulder, tell someone he was proud of me. But Mom snatched it away, her voice sharp. Don't touch that, Noah. It's Lucas's. Be careful, you might break it. Her words cut deep, as if my touch alone could tarnish Lucas's glory. I never had a trophy, never earned their applause. And now, bleeding out, the truth was undeniable. They chose Lucas's celebration over my life, 7 miles away, a distance that was nothing when they cared, but an ocean when they didn't. Tucker's frantic barking snapped me back, his urgent cries cutting through the haze like an alarm. The workshop door burst open, and a voice called out, not my parents', but one I knew well. Noah, oh my God, what happened? It was Clara, my neighbor from a few houses down, rushing in like a whirlwind, her face paling as she took in the blood-soaked scene. I forced my eyes open, trying to smile, but only a weak breath escaped. What are you doing here? I mumbled, my voice barely audible. Tucker, she said, crouching beside me, her jaw tight as she inspected my arm. He's been barking non-stop for 20 minutes. I thought someone broke into your shop. Tucker whimpered, licking my hand, his warmth a small anchor against the biting pain. Clara wrapped another cloth around my wound, tying it so tightly I gritted my teeth to keep from screaming. You've lost too much blood. I'm taking you to the hospital now. I nodded weakly, the world spinning as she pulled me to my feet, her grip steady and sure, like she'd done this before. Tucker stayed close, his body pressed against my legs as if to shield me from whatever came next. The workshop blurred behind us as Clara helped me into her truck, Tucker leaping into the back, his nose pressed against my wrist, panting with worry. I closed my eyes, fighting to stay conscious as the truck jolted down the uneven dirt road, each bump sending fresh pain through my arm. At the hospital, bright lights stung my eyes, making me squint. The doctor spoke to nurses in clipped tones, then began stitching my wound. Each needle prick was sharp, piercing my skin, but it was nothing compared to the betrayal's sting, a wound that cut deeper than any blade. Clara sat beside me, her face tight with concern, her presence a quiet comfort in the sterile room. When the doctor left, she leaned in, her voice soft but heavy. "You okay? Want me to call your parents?" I let out a dry, hollow laugh, the sound bitter in my throat. "Don't bother. I called them when it happened. They didn't come. Too busy throwing a party for Lucas." Clara blinked, her eyes widening as she struggled to process the words. "You nearly died, and they stayed home?" I didn't answer. The truth spoke louder than I ever could. She leaned back, shaking her head, her expression a mix of disbelief and quiet fury, as if she wanted to storm out and confront them herself. I looked at her, a strange blend of gratitude and bitterness swirling in my chest. I'd nearly died, and the one who saved me wasn't my family. It was a neighbor, bound to me by nothing but proximity and kindness, who cared more than the people who raised me. Her presence, her quick action, was a lifeline my parents had refused to throw. The next day, the doctor sat across from me, his voice calm but weighted with gravity. "You're lucky, Noah. The saw missed a major artery, but the nerve's damaged. You might not be able to hold a hammer again." My heartbeat faltered, a cold dread settling in my bones. "Not hold a hammer?" I croaked, my voice barely recognizable, as if it belonged to someone else. He nodded, his eyes steady but kind. "We'll monitor it, but there's a chance your hand won't regain full dexterity. Recovery will take time, if it happens at all." His words drowned out the hospital's hum, the beeping machines, the footsteps in the hall, even Tucker's soft breathing at my feet. Not hold a hammer? The workshop was my life, the only thing I was good at, the one place where I felt whole. If I couldn't carve, who was I? My bandaged hand trembled, stark white against my skin, a useless reminder of what I'd lost. The physical pain was a dull ache compared to the crushing weight in my chest. If I wasn't a carpenter, what was left of me? My phone buzzed, jolting me back to the present. My father's name flashed on the screen. I steadied myself, a flicker of hope rising. Maybe he'd ask if I was okay, say he was worried. I answered, clinging to that fragile thread, my heart aching for a sign they cared. But his voice carried no warmth, just the same cold, practical tone I'd known all my life. "Noah, your mom and I need extra money to help Lucas travel for his tournament." I froze, a chill running down my spine, as if the air had been sucked from the room. "Money for his tournament?" I repeated slowly, each word heavy with barely contained anger. "I almost died. You were right there but didn't come because you were celebrating Lucas. You think I don't know?" He sighed, annoyed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "Don't be dramatic, Noah. It was just a cut." I closed my eyes, numbness spreading through me like a tide. Just a cut. The words echoed, sharp and cruel. I wanted to hurl the phone against the wall, to shatter it as they'd shattered me. But instead, the call ended. He'd hung up, frustrated I hadn't agreed to send money. I inhaled slowly, then exhaled, my resolve hardening. I opened my banking app, my injured hand trembling as I navigated the screen. For years, I'd sent them $1,500 every month, believing it was my duty as a son, a way to prove I was worth something. Now, I saw the truth. They'd left me to die, their loyalty reserved for Lucas. I no longer owed them anything. I scrolled to the automatic transfer set for the first of each month, pressed cancel, and confirmed. With that single tap, a heavy finality settled in, not just an end to the payments, but to the illusion that I needed their approval to exist. I looked at my injured hand, the bandages a stark reminder of what I'd survived. Maybe I'd never carve again, but I'd find a way to live, to rebuild, to be more than their afterthought. Days later, I was discharged, owing Clara a debt I could never repay. She'd stayed by my side, checking on me, bringing food, ensuring I wasn't alone. Back at the workshop, I sprawled on the couch, my arm throbbing with every movement. Tucker curled beside me, his brown eyes filled with silent concern, as if he sensed the weight I carried. 2 weeks later, my hand had improved slightly, though the pain lingered. In the dimly lit workshop, surrounded by scattered wood shavings, I picked up a chisel, gripping it with trembling fingers. The sensation was foreign, like I was a stranger in my own sanctuary. Pain flared, my arm protesting, but I pressed the chisel into the wood, each slow, shaky stroke a defiance of my family's abandonment. I carved a small wooden bear, its form weaker than my past work, but alive with determination. The physical pain was nothing compared to the sting of their betrayal, a wound that fueled every cut into the wood. A sigh broke the silence. "Stubborn as ever," Clara said, standing at the door, arms crossed, her expression a mix of exasperation and something softer. Pride, maybe. "You're pushing too soon," she scolded, stepping forward to inspect the wooden figure. She picked it up, turning it over in her hands, her eyes tracing the uneven lines. I shrugged, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Better than doing nothing. Her gaze met mine, and in her eyes I saw something unexpected. Belief, a quiet confidence that I could rise above this. The next day, she took my carvings to the market, returning with $50 in crumpled bills, her voice bright with excitement. "People loved them, Noah. Someone even asked if you'd make more." I stared at the money, small, but a spark of proof. Proof I could stand on my own. Proof I didn't need my parents' validation to survive. Tucker pressed his head against my hand, his warmth grounding me, and I whispered, "We're going to be okay." My parents didn't call, didn't check in, didn't send a single text. I no longer expected them to. I had myself, Tucker, my workshop. That was enough. But I was wrong to think they'd stay gone. The next day, a loud pounding woke me, echoing through the workshop like a warning. Tucker sprang up, growling, his hackles raised. I opened the door to my parents, their faces etched with scowls, no trace of remorse or regret. "You can't just cut off the money," Dad barked, his eyes flashing with rage as if I'd committed some unforgivable sin. "We raised you." My right fist clenched, the bandages on my left hand tightening, a harsh reminder of their abandonment. I stood, my voice steady, each word a blade honed by years of neglect. "You raised me to abandon me when I was bleeding out. I was dying, and you were celebrating Lucas. My life meant nothing to you." Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Mom mumbled, her head bowed. Lucas needed us more. I laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed in the quiet shop. Needed you for what? To flaunt a trophy? To keep failing while you pour money into him, pretending he's still your golden boy? They offered no defense, their eyes shifting away, unable to bear the weight of the truth. All my life, they'd placed Lucas on a pedestal, but when I demanded to know why, they had no answer. I pointed to the door, my voice final, a verdict delivered. "Get out." They froze, stunned into silence, but they didn't argue. They'd lost something they'd taken for granted, my tolerance, my willingness to shrink for their sake. The door slammed shut behind them, their silence louder than any words. Lucas was their priority. I was nothing. Months passed without contact, the quiet a balm to my wounded heart. But a year ago, a sharp knock interrupted my carving, the chisel pausing mid-stroke. Tucker growled, sensing trouble. I opened the door to my parents, their faces tired but calculated, their eyes gleaming with a new plan. Dad spoke first, his voice firm, as if he could command my compliance. "Noah, you need to sell this workshop." I raised an eyebrow, disbelief curling in my chest. "Excuse me?" Mom nodded eagerly, her words rehearsed, spilling out with practiced enthusiasm. "Lucas is planning a football training academy for young talent. It's a golden investment. If it succeeds, we'll all benefit, especially you." I crossed my arms, my voice flat. "How much this time?" Mom swallowed, her eyes flickering with unease. "The initial investment's $300,000. If we get in early, we'll hold a major share in Lucas's company. You'll have millions without lifting a finger." I stared, torn between laughter and fury, the audacity of their request burning in my chest. "You want me to sell my workshop, my home, my life, to gamble on Lucas's dream?" Dad nodded, his face serious, as if it were the most obvious choice. "Yes, this is life-changing. You waste your time in this run-down shop, but if you invest in Lucas, you can quit working and live comfortably." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh, the sound echoing in the quiet shop. "No." Mom frowned, her voice tinged with frustration. "Noah, you're being short-sighted. Listen to us. Your future will be different." I met their gaze, my expression ice-cold, every word deliberate. "You want to invest in Lucas? Fine. Sell your house. That's your property. You decide. But this workshop is my home. I'm not selling." Dad's face darkened, his voice rising. "Don't be selfish, Noah. The family needs you. You can't turn your back on Lucas now." Before I could respond, Clara's door swung open next door. She stepped out, arms crossed, eyes sharp as knives, her presence cutting through the tension like a blade. "What a brilliant plan," she said, her voice cool, laced with sarcasm. "You want Noah to sell his livelihood to fund a business run by someone who's done nothing but burn through your money." Dad scowled, his tone sharp. "This isn't your business." Clara shrugged, unfazed. "I wasn't planning to interfere, but when I hear someone being manipulated into giving up everything for a pipe dream, I can't stay quiet." She faced them head-on, her voice steady and unflinching. "For years, Noah worked hard, sent you money every month. Lucas? He lived off it, coasting on your blind faith. Now that Noah's stopped, you come crawling back, trying to drain him further, even take his workshop. That's not family. That's exploitation." Mom's face flushed red, her voice defensive. "That's not true. We want to help Lucas." Clara cut her off, her tone sharp as steel. "Help or enable? What's Lucas done to deserve $300,000? Is he still a spoiled kid expecting you to carry him forever?" Silence fell, heavy and undeniable. Dad had no response. Mom lowered her gaze, unable to meet my eyes, the truth laid bare. They knew Clara was right. I crossed my arms, my voice calm but unwavering. "She's right. I'm not selling, and I suggest you leave before you lose your house too." After a long, tense pause, Dad clenched his fists and turned away. Mom hesitated, her eyes flickering with something, regret perhaps, before following quietly. For the first time, they understood I was done, that I'd drawn a line they couldn't cross. Clara watched them go, then turned to me, narrowing her eyes. "Kid, don't let them come back a fourth time." I smirked, a spark of defiance in my chest. "They won't get the chance," Tucker barked, as if in agreement, his loyalty a quiet comfort. I thought they'd abandon Lucas's ridiculous project after that, but I was wrong. Weeks later, Clara walked into the workshop, setting 2 coffees on the table, her expression a mix of disapproval and concern. A look I hadn't seen before. "Noah, there's something you need to know," she said, her voice heavy. I raised an eyebrow, setting down my chisel. "What is it?" she sighed, tapping her fingers lightly on the table, choosing her words with care. Then she said it outright. Your parents mortgaged their house to invest in Lucas. I froze, the words sinking in like a stone. What? She nodded, her voice dropping. They signed papers with the bank 3 weeks ago. A $300,000 loan, the exact amount they asked you for. Lucas's project failed. I let out a dry chuckle, shaking my head, the bitter irony settling in. Of course it failed. It was never going to work. I wasn't surprised, but a quiet curiosity stirred. The bank's taking the house? Clara nodded, her eyes steady. They've got a foreclosure notice. They'll lose it if they don't pay within 2 weeks. She studied me carefully, her voice softening. Noah, are you going to help them? I met her gaze, my voice calm but resolute, each word carrying the weight of a decision made long ago. No. She raised an eyebrow, perhaps expecting the answer, but surprised by its finality. I set my coffee down, the warmth of the mug grounding me. I know this might disappoint you. They're my parents, I said, never breaking eye contact. But the moment they left me to bleed out, I squinted out the window, the memory vivid, shaking, desperate, begging while they raised glasses to Lucas, their laughter echoing through the phone. They died to me. Clara was quiet for a few seconds, her eyes searching mine. Then she sighed, not with disappointment, but with understanding. A quiet acknowledgement of the choice I'd made. I don't blame you, she said softly, her voice warm with empathy. I pity them. They had the best son they could ask for and never knew how to value him. I didn't respond, my gaze dropping to my hands, the hands that had pulled me back from the brink when the people who should have done it turned away. The scars on my left hand, faint but present, were a reminder of what I'd survived, not just the wound, but the deeper cut of their betrayal. 2 years have passed, and I'm still here in my workshop, carving day by day, hour by hour. My hands aren't as strong as they once were, the nerve damage a lingering shadow, but they can still hold a chisel, still shape wood into pieces I'm proud of. Small bears, deer, intricate boxes with stories etched into their grain. Tucker's older now, his steps slower, his muzzle grayer, but he remains by my side, as loyal as ever, his soft snores a steady rhythm in the quiet shop. Clara, the only family I have left, stops by every morning, bringing coffee and the latest town gossip, her laughter filling the space like sunlight. She's more than a neighbor. She's the one who saw me when my family didn't, who pulled me from the edge when I had no one else. Sometimes, in the late-night hours, when the saw is silent and the workshop's warm yellow light casts long shadows across my workbench, I think of them. My parents. Lucas. Are they okay? Are they living well? Do they ever think of me, even for a moment? There have been times when I've reached for my phone, my thumb hovering over their numbers, tempted to make just one call, to send just one message. Would it be so hard? But then instinct and reason pull me back, sharp and clear. I remember the night I begged for help while they celebrated Lucas, their voices bright with pride as I bled alone. I remember their return, not to check on me, but to demand money for their golden child. I remember the house they gambled away for him, only to lose everything, their choices a mirror of their priorities. Some wounds never heal. Some losses can never be restored. So I remain silent, my heart steady, my resolve unbroken. Have I been too cold, or am I simply protecting the life I've built, the peace I've earned? I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts below. Your perspective means a lot to me. Yeah. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. Stay tuned to the channel for tons of exciting videos. Every day, we upload fresh stories packed with thrills and surprises. Don't miss out. Comment, share, subscribe, and hit that like button.